Hey everybody, this is Perch, and talking a little bit about bad optics. Now, what we mean by bad optics in this particular case is something that's maybe not the worst idea, maybe not even that bad, but it's just poorly timed. It's one of those things that, hey, it could be fine, but it could just not the right moment, not exactly the right moment, and it's coming at a funny time. This topic is one I want to talk about because people have asked general questions about why does why, for example, does Marvel like to promote the next event from within the previous event? And the answer there, it's a little bit of bad optics. Now, to some extent, what Marvel's doing is that they know that they've got a lot of people who are buying the event because regardless of how much people bitch, and they do, it's still they buy the event. They're like, I'm tired of events, right? After this one, I'm done. Maybe after the next two, I'm done. I'm done after this. The next four, I'm done. No more Marvel. No more of my money after the next six. No more. That tends to be how the consumer behavior is because the events keep selling. Generally speaking, they keep selling. So if you've got the majority, if that's your number one selling comic, then the advertising space for teeing up the next best-selling comic is going to be where it's in the best-selling comic that you currently have, which is an event, and that's why you have a lot of events that advertise events. But the optics of that are bad. The optics are such that you just had an event, had a ton of tie-ins and crossovers and everything else, and Marvel always does their part. They always like trot out the same press release, like you don't need to buy all those crossovers. You don't need to. You could just buy the ones you want. Just buy the one. Please buy them all. But you could just buy the ones you want. But hopefully all of them. But just the ones you want. You don't have to buy them all. Please do though. But you don't have to. That's kind of the general pitch that Marvel will give you there. But it's actually very funny because at the exact same moment, completely unrelated to comics. Speaking of bad optics, there's a story that's kind of getting known here in the Seattle area. I think it's in Eaton. I think it's one of the suburbs or surrounding Eaton's not really a suburb, but one of the smaller towns in this area. And the schools come up with a novel way to help track student contact for the coronavirus. And that way is by using ankle bracelets and putting those on the athletes so that they can see the proximity of who they've been around. And so the students are wearing ankle bracelets who are in the sports team. And that's one of those things where it's like, wearable if you're going to track that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe not the worst idea in the world, I guess, if that's what you're into, but it's the optics of giving your sports students ankle bracelets. It just the wrong message, right? Just kind of the wrong, like, yeah. You picture the gift of was it Jonah Hill, like going at the Oscars, like no, don't do that. But comics have lots of bad optics problems from time to time. Another kind of big one is in a time when you've got just like so many comics. It's Marvel's announcements of this comic will have 39 variant covers. Now the reality is I'm against variant covers certainly, but in their defense, it's a quote unquote crime that's supported by willing buyers who are opting into buying those variants. It's not like it's not like Marvel's making you buy all those variants. I actually heard that on a channel the other day. It's what's weird to me about comics, and just as an aside, is that there's a lot you can be upset about. There's a lot you can complain about, plenty. Uh, but you don't need to make up new stuff. Like there's plenty of existing material. And so I hear some of these videos from time to time, and this one was like trying to check all the boxes of being pissed. It's like, well, Sana Amanat's at it again. She's forcing retailers to buy variant covers. It's like, okay, all right. Number one, wrong office. Number two, the retailer's not forced to buy variants. Number three, holy crap! I'm driving into Seattle, by the way, for the first time in like 2.5 months, I think, and there's a lot of homeless here now. This isn't a new development, but Jesus, like, anyway. Comics, when you're, so it's stupid news aside, when you are killing some titles because you have too many, or you have this reputation for being reader unfriendly, or any number of these things. You don't. It's now's not the time to brag about 39 variant covers. That is a dumb. That's dumb optics. Even if you don't have to buy them, retailers can choose in or out. It's bad optics for you. Another really classic one that the big two do regularly is that they'll announce a superstar artist, and then they'll like the artist is it's in the solicits, so the comic hasn't come out yet. And this has happened a couple times now, where it's like we're launching this comic with this amazing artist like Pepe Larraz. He's going to be on this, and before the first issue of the comics actually hit the stands, you're advertising Pepe Larraz doing something else. And you're very excited. Who doesn't love Pepe Larraz? Amazing, great artist. But the optics of announcing a new project for the artist that you're launching a comic with that hasn't even come out yet feels like a womp womp kind of moment of bad optics. It's just some bad timing. Another good one is well, in some cases, it's always these things that make you look hypocritical or make you look foolish. Like, for example, you are, you're trimming your line, you're cutting some titles, you're doing other things, and meanwhile, like your chairman, your GM is out there talking about how great business is going. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. We're doing less is more. Less is more. We're putting out 69 titles this month, but less is more. Less, more. That's what we're doing. It's again, everybody can say what they want, but again, the optics are bad. It makes your company look dysfunctional, like people aren't communicating, like nobody really knows what's going on. That's how these things happen. There are more, certainly. I think when Bendis came over to DC, and that he was just announced to be writing everything. And one of the criticisms of Bendis is that he gets self involved in too much, and it kind of tips over, and the quality suffers, and then it's there's already this kind of narrative of this story going on around, hey, Bendis is taking over. Bendis likes to kind of greedily kind of take over parts of comics, and then the company proceeds to like continually announce stuff Bendis is on. It's like you're playing into your criticism. You're at that point. The optics are bad. It's like anyway. There's tons of these things. Another way to put it that maybe is a more accurate way, I think, in the world of comics, is the idea of unforced errors, and meaning you didn't have to make this mistake. You didn't have to look stupid, but you accomplished it anyway. By saying and doing the wrong things. I would argue that Jim Lee Daniel Cherry interview was a bit of an unforced error. There were things said in there that were just patently wrong. In a broader sense, it's like Biden coming out to talk about the Afghanistan pullout and saying, yeah, I think it went perfectly. I mean, it's like you may think that in your head, and you're welcome to, but these are things you don't say. In general, you never say it. So comics have this problem as well. Joe Quesada is notorious for doing interviews where it's like, I think everything's going amazing. It's like, no, dude, don't say that out loud. Best case, you're jinxing it. Worst case, again, you sound like you're very disconnected from the business that you're running. And that's why, generally big absolutes are bad optics. They're unforced errors. Coming out and saying, nothing could be going better. It's like, well, I don't know. Several of your people have commented about how they're being asked to take a pay cut. Nothing is going better. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you say. I think a lot of these virtual Comic Cons wind up kind of fitting into this category as well, because on one hand, it's like, you want your writers and your creative team to have the perception of being, really on top of things and kind of very creative and everything else. And everybody wants to do a persona when they're on that Zoom call. They want to have come across a little quirky, a little like a Joss Whedon movie. Back before Joss Whedon was, horrible monster. I mean, back when he was charming. You want to sound like an Avengers film before we knew that the Russos would come in and do it better. You want to have that kind of vibe going on for your thing. And a lot of people don't have the acting skills or the personality to pull that off. So, they wind up looking kind of ridiculous. And that's a little bit what that's where I think these video conferences, these virtual cons, are just they're rife for these kinds of unforced errors, for these kinds of very very bad optics. That's what they're all about. Anyway, what about you? What kind of bad optics have you seen in comics? Let me know in the comments below. Unforced errors. What are some of the classic ones you remember? Let me have it. Let me have it. Let me know. I mean, technically, this entire show is bad optics for me, but that's just me. Thanks for listening.